Hello. I think it's been such an intense workshop that, I need to thank you for your gift of time, especially at the end of the day today. We have people covering immigration policy in LA, in Sacramento, and in DC, and part of what I do enhances their coverage, so sort of like the minor player to the majors. We've been hearing a lot about numbers this weekend, but I think that's a treat that we can take away with us. But ultimately, what our stories are about is people. And I'm lucky to be able to write about how people live their daily lives, how immigrants connect or collide, and this constant struggle to adapt versus the urgency to maintain one's culture. And I like to go about it in a quirky, sort of offbeat way because it sort of matches my chaotic personality. Some examples of that. We wrote about The Angry Little Girls. It's a comic strip where the main character is named Kim and who's constantly been raised in an atmosphere where she's pushed to be somebody. And the real life comic book artist behind that reflects her life on the page, and she will say something like, her mother will say something like, "I demand achievement," and she will say something back like, "I demand you get a grip." The way I described that in print is South Park with sort of an Asian attitude, and so she's giving off like a primal scream, a blast of defiance, sort of. And she describes herself as, it's not easy being a girl with mean parents, a dumb boyfriend, and annoying friends. So the reason we wrote about that, and we always try to find a time element, is because her comic book strip was coming to the screen. And that happened a few months ago. In doing that story, I was the first person to ask to interview her mom, and they thought it was crazy because the mother and daughter don't get along. The daughter will buy the mother a wallet, and she will throw it away. So why you waste money on me? Sort of speaking with an accent and losing all the verbs. And we kept all of that to kind of capture the authenticity. We look at how immigrants live their lives, and one of the key things is language. Do they speak the language? Do they not? What does the mainstream culture do to sort of cater to their lack or their abundance of language? And the Lakers basketball team was the first team in the NBA to actually broadcast in Korean. And they started at the end of the last season. So we wanted to find a way to go about covering that, but not just by saying, hey, Time Warner Cable is for the first time investing $3 billion into this venture. So I started thinking about, where do people watch basketball? And a lot of people go to sports bars. But I don't know which sports bars to go to in Koreatown. I'm not really a regular sports bar kind of girl. I'm a different kind of bar. But so I went to 3 different bars at night, and some of them were really hard to find because they're hidden and they're not marked. And finally found a really good one called the Palm, and just went in there and watched what happened. They have smoke screens, they have neon signs, they have 3 sizes of karaoke rooms, and it can be a minimum of $100 per person per room. And we just looked at the basketball schedule for an away game, and I chose some good teams, and then went there to sort of capture the liveliness of the scene and interview the bargoers about, hey, is it really better to hear the games in Korean? And one of them told me, now we really know who the players are and not just their names, because they actually hired Korean-speaking broadcasters, and they gave a description of what these players do and a glimpse into their private lives, kind of like what we saw mainstream coverage of Tiger when the big scandals happened. We write about different things that happen in the language itself. Another thing that I did that I thought was interesting was there's a lot of discrimination against people who don't speak language or who prefer to speak in their own language. In Central California, there was a hospital filled with the majority of the nurses being Filipino, and you see a lot of that these days. And the housekeepers and security guards were told to spy on them by the CEO. They were not allowed to speak their native language in break rooms while on breaks, in the cafeterias or in the bathrooms. I mean, imagine that. And they sued. It took several years, and they finally won almost $1 million in discrimination settlement. And that was a huge record. And this is something that would normally get ignored because people don't notice and don't really care when immigrants get mocked for their accents. But I think it's a big deal. I think an accent can be a lovely thing, and it's also a part of a reflection of who we really are. So why would you attack people for something like that? There's a lot of things that happen around the holidays, and we don't want to just do the normal, here's this holiday and how it's observed. So I was thinking about the Lunar New Year, and you know, as tradition dictates, a lot of people go see fortune tellers. So I searched a bunch of different yellow pages in different languages for just like the right kind of fortune teller I can go to. And in order to interview him, he demanded that I had to get my own fortune read and pay him for it. So I had to sit through the excruciating hour and a half to find out all these things that you really don't want to know about, such as which are the months that are best for your health and which months of the year you should not be traveling. And this guy makes a lot of money. It's big business. It's $600 per diem daily when he's traveling to consult with clients. And if it's just like what I did one-on-one, that's $50, but you can pay him $20 to choose a really good fortunate date for your marriage, in case someone's getting married soon. I think the story that I did that had the most viral attention, we got like 500 emails and tweets within just the first 5 hours, was what do they really talk about at nail salons? And yeah, how many people have gone to do their nails and wondered that? Raise your hand. Yeah, I know there's some men who wonder that too. And Ron, you look guilty. So, yeah.
Do I look like I've been to a nail salon?
You know what? I'm not going to make assumptions because people's faces are very deceptive. And so I started going to nail salons every 2 weeks. I wanted to get the story done sooner, but I didn't want to erase their beautiful jobs. And I'm not the kind of person who paints my nails at all. And so it was hard to figure out what to do while you're inside because you can't just sit there and write notes because they would be wondering, what are you doing? So I just, at that time we were using Blackberries at the LA Times. We've since switched to iPhones. And I would just text myself or just open up the email and type things I had heard. And in the beginning, I didn't let on that I understood. And after going to 4 different salons in 4 different geographic neighborhoods with different income levels, I felt like I had enough to write. But then one of my top editors said, well, this isn't very honest. You didn't tell them that you were there and that you were listening. So I had to go back to some of the, what I thought would be friendlier ones and confess and sort of put that element into the story. And they thought I was crazy. They said, well, why do you want to know what we're talking about? It's not anything fascinating, but it was, and it was bad. Some of it was really good, but some of it was nasty, you know. I mean, the condition of people's toes and your impressions and the odor that surrounds it. I mean, who really wants to hear that about themselves? And I also heard them say about my hands, they're like, look at her hands, they're so dry. She has gambling hands. And I never even knew what that was about. And I ultimately ended up getting some very expensive French cream to try to atone for that, but it doesn't work. And then I'll just leave you with one last anecdote. A story that I'm working on now, should come out in late November, is I spent 3 days at a boot camp for Asian nerds. So I want to look for something fun because, you know, we're going to die soon. So I want to have fun while I'm still here. And these guys pay about $2,000 for 3 days. And when we look at the interaction between different communities, there's a lot of incidents of interracial dating. But I just don't want to write about interracial dating because that's boring. I want to go about it through a different angle. So this was a situation where Asian guys who call themselves nerds and who say they do not know how to talk to women, literally speechless, go starting very similar to our program, but starting on a Friday evening. They have classroom lectures right in Hollywood, but the guy who conducts this, he conducts it nationwide. So you can replicate this story in your own region. New York, Miami, Dallas, everywhere. And he's coming to Australia. He just went to London. They teach you basically how to talk not just to women, but they're white women. There's these molds or just like misconceptions, according to him, that Asian guys cannot get white women. But he himself is Asian and has conquered this. And he goes through a series of tips using very, very candid terms, not all which we can use. And you know, I learned new things like today the modern relationship is conducted solely through text. Don't call the girl. She's gonna say, what are you doing calling me? You're weird. That freaks me out. So they hang up and there's no chance for you to make the next move. But what he would do is teach theory in class and then take them out into the field to apply theory. So, yeah, so I'm sure you're wondering what that is. So they went to the two hottest nightclubs in Hollywood. And he was telling me, you know, Playboy models go to these clubs. And I said, really? And sure enough, they do. Also Maxim models, and according to him, his students have dated like a former Miss World. So he has like the success stories, and I interviewed one of the success stories, and then it was really difficult to get all the guys to go on the record, the one in class, so we still haven't figured out what we're gonna do using first names or whatever, but it should be fun. And I learned about a lot about relationships and how to apply them to your daily life through that. So, one of the things I thought of was I was born in a country with no freedom of the press, so I've been raised to be grateful for that, and every day I think about that. So this whole session sort of drives that fact home. And so thanks for your attention, and thanks for letting me learn from you.